This is Rashawn Slater, first round draft pick for the LA Chargers, and you're listening to the Charged Up Bolts podcast. Bolt up.
Hey there, Bolt fam. This is your boy Adroit Ayers, #AudibleChocolate. I'm happy to introduce to you this video where I took the opportunity to speak with our sister podcast here on the Pigskin Podcast Network, the Always Sunny in Chiefs Kingdom podcast with Taylor and Austin. It's a really great podcast if you're looking for information on the Chiefs for, I don't know, some fantasy reasons or just you want to hear what they are feeling about their team. We spent some time talking about the Bolts, talking about the Chiefs, and of course, the big divisional matchup here on Sunday between the two last place teams in the AFC West. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Spoiler alert, neither of us feel like the Raiders or the Broncos are going to hold on to that top spot in the division for very long, but the winner of this matchup is going to take a 2-1 record going forward, which could be very important for the Bolts, especially with their matchup coming up on Monday night against the Raiders after the Chiefs. So two big divisional games right in a row. It's an exciting time for the Bolts, an important time for them. So I hope you enjoy this little crossover event that we created for you guys. There'll be more of these coming as we face more of our divisional rivals coming up. Enjoy the video. Bolt up.
So the Pigskin Podcast Network has hooked up the It's Always Sunny in Chiefs Kingdom podcast with our friends over at Charged Up Bolts. And so we are now joined with John from Charged Up Bolts to talk a little Chiefs Chargers Week 3 matchup. John, how you doing tonight?
Doing great. Hey there, Chiefs Kingdom. Glad to be making an appearance here. Glad to be on with you guys. You guys got a great pod. So, really excited to be part of the Pigskin Network with you guys. And hopefully we can do another crossover when we guys meet later in the season. So.
Yeah, certainly. And what's up, Bolts fam? We are definitely excited to have some Chargers, and I guess not so much the other two teams. I feel like Chiefs and Chargers definitely get along better than certainly from our end, Chiefs and Raiders and Chiefs and Broncos. So we're kind of we're over on one side and then the other two idiots are on the other side. So it's good to have some Chargers guys in our corner.
The other two 2-0 idiots while we're languishing in last place at 1-1. Ugh, yeah.
Not ideal.
Welcome to the cellar with us. We're pretty up and down, but it's not an uncommon place for the Bolts. So we're comfortable down here. Thanks for slumming it with us this week.
Yeah, well, it's been, both teams coming off a loss. The Chiefs, obviously, with the last-second loss to the Ravens. The Chargers with the last-second loss to the Cowboys. Why don't you maybe start us off with kind of how you personally are feeling about the start to the season, maybe how Bolts fans feeling about how everything's going so far. What's the temperature like in LA?
So I take the temperature a lot based off Chargers Twitter because that's the most active, I think, unit of the Chargers fan base. And I mean, you saw it last year with the way they came out and voted for Herbert for Rookie of the Week every week. Yeah. We've got a good start. Again, we're recording this on a Wednesday night, but Asante Samuel currently is leading Rookie of the Week for his performance this week. So again, big props to Chargers Twitter. Way to go, Bolt fam out there. But I think there's a lot of, I guess, we're excited, but again, we're still kind of nervous about what's going on. Week 1, we felt pretty good. We're like, okay, there's some kinks in there, but the O-line looked really good. And that was a big focus for us, was getting that O-line going. We kind of disappointed in the red zone in week 1. And we thought, okay, well, there were some drops and some mishaps. Week 1 stuff, nothing to worry about. And then week 2 rolled around and the red zone stuff was there again. I mean, we've made it to the red zone now 10 times in the first 2 weeks, tied with only the Bucs on that. However, we've only scored a touchdown 2 of those times, and the Bucs have scored 7 times. So it is worrisome. Week 1, there were some drops and some just misplays there and a really weird fumble call. Week 2 is just a bunch of bad penalties and some misplays there. So I think we're worried about a red zone, and our O-line looked really bad week 2. We're worried about that. So I think we're excited because I think we can see the potential that this team has. But I mean, it seems like every year the Chargers are one of those kind of dark horse for to make a playoff run. They've got so much potential and talent, and then they just can't get it done. So I think there's a lot of people worried that this last week's performance was just another same old Bolts, same old, choking it away at the end of the game. So I think that's a nervous excitement is where we're at. How the Chiefs feeling about a 1-1 start, which is probably not ideal for you guys?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, a tonic for a bad red zone offense is most certainly the Chiefs defense. So the Chiefs defense right now has allowed opponents into the red zone 8 times.
In
And
8 tries, eight.
Well,
for
that's
8
what I was going to say.
touchdowns.
They're 8 red zone attempts, 8 touchdowns.
So we've got the resistible force versus the movable object here. This will be good.
Exactly right.
It's very exciting stuff for us. We'll see.
Right. So obviously in Chiefs Kingdom, the sky's falling. Not really, but it's certainly concerning anytime the Chiefs lose a game in the Patrick Mahomes era for any reason. That's always.
If you are familiar with Chiefs Twitter at all, it is extremely toxic at all times, and we soak it up. It's fine.
That's right. So a loss is no fun, even though former MVP at quarterback had a phenomenal performance. All the things that are understandable to lose a road game to the Ravens. It's still, the Raiders beat the Ravens and they were very beat up, and so it felt like a very winnable game. And the Chiefs could have had a game-winning field goal, but they fumbled it away. So not ideal. Not going to be great facing a team that has always given the Chiefs trouble on the Chiefs offense versus this defense. The Chargers defense by far is the number 1 team as far as holding Patrick Mahomes in check. As much as you can do that, the Chargers have been responsible for that. However, a little bit of practice, not practicing today for Chris Harris and Derwin James and some. I mean, I'm sure they'll play, but maybe if the Chargers aren't feeling up to it physically, maybe that'll.
And it's a new defense too. So something that I'm curious to see is obviously the Chargers have played Patrick Mahomes pretty well, but we're looking at a completely new defense with Brandon Staley, and we as Chiefs fans have not seen how Patrick Mahomes will play against that style of defense. And obviously what he did with the Rams last year was extraordinary. And just looking at, I haven't grinded the film of the Chargers defense the first 2 weeks, but it seems like defensively the Chargers have been pretty stout. How are you feeling about that matchup?
Well, I will say this. It's definitely a different defense. So a lot of people on Chargers Twitter like to call it the Gus Bradley defense that we've seen in the past, the warm butter defense, meaning, hey, his defense was just don't give up big plays and give everything up underneath, right? So again, a team like the Chiefs who've, lived, by making these massive, huge plays because you've got some of the most talented pass catchers and one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. Obviously, big plays are driver offense in the past, at least. So I think that's why they matched up now. So I don't know how Staley's going to attack it. I'd say he's come out with a different scheme between week 1 and 2. But the biggest difference is I think that our holes are really up the middle, up the gut, just inability to stop the run. I mean, I think something about that. I think you've given up like 400 yards for the last 2 games.
Extremely,
so,
yeah.
I guess the good news is that, no offense, Clyde Edwards-Helaire has not really blown me away. He doesn't look like a guy who's some sort of a world beater. So that might be good for us. But again, Antonio Gibson was looking like he was going to be a potential MVP candidate versus us in week 1. Week 2, they go against an actually good run defense, and he does nothing. So, Cowboys, same thing. I think they had 12 rushing attempts in the first game because they're like, we're not going to bother. We're just not that great. And against us, we give up almost 100 yards to both Pollard and Zeke. So I think if you guys can get something going on the ground, it would be dangerous for us. But really, I think since you're going to be trying to attack our secondary, I think that is a good matchup.
Yeah.
Question mark. As far as the practice report goes, I know Bosa and Derwin James took the day off today. Brandon Staley already said in the beginning of the week there was going to be a scheduled day off, so I wouldn't worry about them. Chris Harris Jr. did miss last week's game, so whether or not they're just being cautious with him to try to get him back on the field for this weekend, I don't know. I think the Thursday, Friday practice reports are going to be really important for that. So keep an eye on that if you guys are wondering about our secondary. And obviously, we're really excited about Asante Samuel Jr. He's a guy I called out for a dark horse defensive rookie of the year in the beginning of the year because I think his skill set fits perfectly into this Staley kind of too high safety look that he tends to throw out there. So, obviously he had a good game last week, big interception. One of the best rated, at least a PFF rated cornerbacks right now. So we'll see kind of how that plays out against some elite level pass catchers like you guys have. But
don't feel bad if he doesn't look very good against Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and all. I mean, that's a matchup that even when you've got really nice young talent, it can be trouble. I want to talk to you real quickly about Justin Herbert. Obviously, great year last year, offensive rookie of the year, all the fun,
Had a great debut against the Chiefs in week 2 last year after your team doctor decided to perform emergency surgery on Tyrod Taylor by accident.
So I'm curious how now 2 games into the second year, have you learned anything new about him, or is he still pretty much the guy you thought he was going to be? How's your take on him?
I think he's taken some steps forward. You haven't really necessarily seen it. You've seen it in some of the box scores and some of the yards. I mean, the Chargers are, have the number one rate in third down conversions, or at least one of the top ones in third down conversions, something he did a lot of last year. He's had a lot more time to pass this year than last year. And I think where he's really stepped up is he was a little sloppy when he had a clean pocket. Maybe he just felt like it was just too much time. He didn't know what to do with himself because the O-line was so bad last year.
We know all about that with Mahomes as well.
Certainly, yeah.
Like I don't know if they just I don't know if these guys who live and breathe just off schedule and off platform, when they're able to just stand in the pocket, they kind of go, I don't know what to do, and they kind of freak out. But he kind of looked, he had a lot of sketchy throws and a lot of missed overthrows last year when he had a clean pocket. This year he's had more clean pockets and he's looked very solid. He's, and obviously he's got that arm talent that everyone likes to goo and go over. But I think just his ability to really perform in a clean pocket is a step forward for him. I think he's doing a great job diagnosing defenses, understanding where pressure's coming from, making changes at the line, all things that I think we saw glimpses of last year. He's doing more consistently in these first 2 games. And again, the fact that he hasn't scored, we're 25th in points scored, but we're number 1 in yards. I think that's more of a penalties, weird drops by players, and just kind of weird things happening that we haven't scored in the red zone, more than him not being able to score in the red zone. But we'll see. 2 weeks is like, oh, maybe we do this for a third week against your defense, which, obviously has not been very stout in the red zone. I'm going to push the panic button on our red zone offense.
Weird things happening is sort of a theme for the Chargers. So I guess my final question would be, and this to me was the biggest question coming in: are the Chargers the same old Chargers? Like we've gone on now through several head coaches and several special teams coordinators, and obviously Philip Rivers was a constant for a long time, but it seemed like the Chargers were, to be frank, they were really good at finding ways to lose games in very weird ways. And obviously it's only 2 games into the Brandon Staley era, but have we lifted the curse? Do we still find that the Chargers are finding ways to do Chargers things at the end of games, or where are we at on that?
I think it's too early to tell. I think week 1, they actually, they only gave up the lead 1 time, which is pretty good for them. And they held on to it, and they finished the game out with the ball. And I think that's important. And that's something they really didn't do in the Anthony Lynn era. And then against the Cowboys, again, I think there was, a missed kick, some poorly timed penalties that led to the opportunity to give the Cowboys a chance to win it with a 60 or 56-yard field goal. So again, I think that game there were bad calls on both sides. I don't want to blame the refs for that, but I think that was just a weirdly officiated game for both sides. So I'm not coming out here saying, hey, we're the same old Chargers, but I still want to see it happen a few more times before I'm like, okay, they're not the kind of choke artists we've seen in the past who've just gotten to these great halftime leads and then just choked it away. So
I'm interested to see Herbert in hostile Arrowhead, which he hasn't gotten a chance to experience due to COVID. There's definitely something to be said for the decibel level there and all that stuff. And if, fortunately, I think for the Chargers offense, they're not going to be going up against a good defense, even though it'll be loud. So I think that'll help there. Any feelings on how this game's going to go? Or are we still kind of, neither team, I feel like, especially coming off of the loss, is coming into this game super confident by any means, but I expect it to be a close game one way or the other. Is that kind of how you're feeling? Like it'll just be one of those classic AFC West back and forths, and may the team with the ball last win?
I do. I think I would not be surprised if it was very similar to the games last year, where it just felt like whoever had the ball last was able to win. Obviously, last year everyone on Chargers here is screaming at Anthony Lynn for punting the ball to Mahomes and the Chiefs. Like, why just go for it? Like, you have a better chance of going for it than you do give it to him the ball.
Right.
So I think it's going to be a close game. I think obviously if I were putting money down, I might be a little hesitant to put money down on the Bulls, just because, again, there's just a lot of newness on this team and a lot of kind of feeling out. You talk about that Rams defense that Staley's supposed to bring. Even last year when he was in charge of the defense, it took them a good 3 to 4 games before they even started looking like the Rams defense. And I think our defense is kind of going through those same growing pains. So to me, of course, the fan of me wants to say, of course, Chargers are
Yeah,
going to go and upset in Arrowhead. But
Right.
I think the realistic part of me is like, we're the underdogs for a reason. And I think they're going to have to put together a really clean game if they want to beat the Chiefs.
Well, I'll tell you that whichever team comes out of this game with a loss to be last place in the AFC West is still going to be in better shape to finish ahead of the two idiots that are currently 2-0. I have no concerns about the Raiders or the Broncos long term. I think it's Chiefs Chargers to the finish line, and I'm looking forward to one of two very good matchups this year, maybe a third matchup in the playoffs if things break right. Could be fun. Why don't you tell our listeners on our pod where they can find your podcast and you on Twitter and all that stuff?
So obviously you're podding out to the Chiefs Kingdom there, but if you're interested in getting a little bit more details, maybe for fantasy or for whatever on the Bolts, you can find us at Charged Up Bolts. That's our podcast. We're also at chargedupboltsmag.com. So we've got a kind of an online blog and magazine where we do content there. You can find me at Adroit Ayers. And again, our Charged Up Pod is our Twitter handle for the podcast. So we're out there, we're streaming. How about for us? If my listeners want to get in front of you guys, what's your guys' Twiddle handers, and what's the best way to get hold of you?
So we are It's Always Sunny in Chiefs Kingdom, a play off the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia TV show, which is Austin and I's favorite show of all time. My Twitter handle is at Taylor_Witt, and Austin.
Mine is at Real Bird Lawyer, and my name is Austin, and I don't have my name on there, but it's fine. We do a good pod. If you guys are interested in checking that out, I don't know about fantasy advice. It's pretty obvious with us. Usually, you play Patrick Mahomes, you play Travis Kelce, you play Tyreek Hill. You don't play Clyde Edwards-Helaire
for the Chiefs defense
because he sucks. But this was great, and we're looking forward to doing some more of these in the future.
Yes, definitely. I'm excited. Thanks for getting together with me today, and looking forward to a good game on Sunday.
As are we. Take it easy, John.
All right, you too. Bye.